Greetings, Deep Dive Podcast listeners. This is your boy, Sam Oram, coming at you with another episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. Man, we're rolling on with season three, and things have been incredible so far. I'm just so very excited to have an opportunity once again to just share with you some things from our podcast, the Deep Dive Podcast. Welcome to all of you who are joining us from around the world. We do know that people are here from many, many countries around the world. So we're excited to have an opportunity just to share some things with you in terms of entertainment and empowerment. Those of you who are our, listeners from many, many seasons ago or many, many episodes ago, we want to welcome you back as well. And of course, all of our sponsors and friends everywhere around the world. Again, I'm really excited about sharing some things with you. This is a new transition in terms of our country. A lot of things are going on. As you know, a couple of days ago, there were the midterm elections, and that had a lot of consequences. And so many things are going on, and we really want to make sure that we stay in tune with everything and everybody so that we can continue to empower people, give people the best value in terms of what their life could be, and also occasionally here and there just entertain you, have some fun, laugh, and just cut up a bit. So we're here to do a lot of things for a lot of people, and we're excited about that. Tonight's episode of the Deep Dive Podcast, we're going to focus on the power of intention. That's something that I thought about. As a matter of fact, I'll even tell you how that came about shortly. But the power of intention, that is something that's very important, especially in this day and time when so many things are going on. As I said, there's so many things transitioning, whether it's financially, whether it's politically, whether it's spiritually, whatever it may be. There's a transition that's going on in the country and around the world. And we want to be very careful in terms of how we approach life, right? We always talk about creating your future, but there's a part of this. It is about how you create your future. What is the intent in you creating your future? So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. How this topic came about. I was actually on a call this past Monday, as a matter of fact. I was a guest on my for my book, The Mindset of a Champion. There's a book club started by Mr. Stanley Doucette and a group of tremendous leaders, and they have a book club about my book, as I said, and they invited me on for the very first time. And, for me, it was like, I was kind of a little nervous, I guess, because they've had so much success with the book club. They've done so many things. They've empowered so many people just through those teachings. And when I got on there, I could feel the energy of what that particular organization was doing. I could feel the energy and the growth, even from some of the people that I've known before. And it was amazing to me, just some of the conversations. I won't get into all of the details of that, but here's the thing that stood out. There's a leader, one of the leaders that's a part of the book club, young lady by the name of Tristan Hampton. And she shared some things, just in terms of her knowledge, in terms of what she thought or felt. Now, we remember they're speaking as it relates to the book. But then when Tristan started sharing those things, I had this aha moment. You know what? This is a podcast episode. This is something that, I need to talk about live to the world because intent is very, very important. Tristan also mentioned an author, Alex Harmoza, and he actually had a quote, and I'll give you this quote because it kind of sums up what intent is all about. And that quote reads, "A focused fool can accomplish more than a distracted genius." Think about that. A focused fool can accomplish more than a distracted genius. Well, when you think about that for a second, I call that ignorance on fire. That's all it is. Ignorance on fire is better than intelligence on ice. You got to go out and do what you need to do in terms of creating that quality of life and being intent about what you want your future to be. So that is that ignorance on fire from my perspective, as opposed to having intelligence on ice. So many people are so smart, they have so much information and so much knowledge, but at the end of the day, nobody ever asks them a question. So, how useful could that knowledge be? We have to have a level of intent in terms of what we're going to do with that knowledge, how we're going to attack our future, how we're going to create our future, how we're going to empower other people with that knowledge. So, with that understanding in mind, we're talking about intent. There are a few things I want you to, if you're taking notes, you want to jot this down. If you're driving, obviously you want to wait till you get into a secure place where you're not distracted. But when you're talking about your the value of your intentions, you want to make sure that your intentions are clear and specific. I think a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of things that can cause confusion come about because your intentions aren't clear or specific. You want to be very specific, know what you want, right? Otherwise, you're going to send out conflicting messages. You're going to send out mixed messages. Most people who know me know that I'm very particular about words. Every word matters to me. I may not speak with the eloquence and the vocabulary of my good friend, Dr. Cindy Trim, who has a vocabulary that's second to none. I'm just a country boy with my Southern colloquialism. However, even that being the case, for me, every word matters. I listen to every single word someone articulates to me, and I'm very careful about every single word that I share because one word misplaced can create confusion or miscommunication. So when we're talking about our intentions, we want to be very, very specific and very clear with what it is you're trying to articulate, what it is you're trying to say. I think a lot of times, and I told a book club this, but I think a lot of times people have a misconception in terms of my personality or my persona. It's kind of like sometimes I'm very direct. That could be looked at as like being mean or aggressive. It's none of those things. For me, it is just being absolute in what I'm saying. There is no gray area. What I'm saying is what I'm saying. I'm being absolute. Well, why is that important as it relates to intention? You know exactly what I mean when I say it because there are no gray areas, right? It is very concise, it is very clear, it's very specific. That's how you want to look at your intentions, whether it's through business, whether it's through relationships, whatever it may be. Are you clear and are you specific in terms of your intent? This reminds me, I'm going way back now, but I remember I was in elementary school and there was this young chick. I'm not gonna call her name because I still know her to this day. And I love this chick, man. I'm following her around, like a little puppy dog. But one day I decided to slip her a note. You know how we do. And I think I wrote on the note, "Do you love me? Yes or no? Circle yes or circle no." And I slipped that note on her desk, and she circled yes, and I'm like, yeah. But my point is, I wanted to be very clear. Do you love me? Yes or no? It ain't no in between. It ain't no, I kind of love you. I like you. You my friend. But no, do you love me? Yes or no? That's my intent, right? Very specific, very clear. Well, that's what you want to do when you're talking about that. But a lot of times with your intentions, you also want to kind of incorporate your vision. Let's look at it from this perspective, especially if you're talking about business. I speak a lot about business. I have these companies and all these things that are going on with, business people and entrepreneurs. It's very important for you to articulate your vision so that they can see themselves or they can see that vision. They can see themselves in that vision, I should say. So if you're painting a picture of a business, if you're doing an elevator pitch about a business, if you're presenting your opportunity to Shark Tank or anybody, you have to incorporate that vision with very specific intent. What is it that you intend to do? How are you going to empower somebody or build this company or make money or whatever it may be. What are your intentions as it relates to your vision? Now, kind of putting myself in this situation, let me just tell you, and I've said this on many episodes of my podcast before. If someone asks me, what is my purpose? I can sum it up in one word: empowerment. My purpose is to empower people, empower as many people as possible, right? So if I'm incorporating my intent with my vision or my purpose, then it'll come off something to the effect of, yeah, I'm doing this because I want to position people to empower themselves. For example, One Voice Worldwide, the business we talk about all the time. The reason I'm doing One Voice Worldwide or the Hot Shot Mall or some of the other things that we're doing, it's not so much about the mall itself or One Voice Worldwide itself. It is a means to an end. How can you create an opportunity for people to build and grow and develop so that they are empowered and become the best that they can possibly be? They can actually live that high quality of life that we all talk about. See, now you're incorporating your intent with your vision. That's when it gets powerful, guys. It can be very, very powerful, but you have to be clear in outlining and articulating what that vision is through your intent. You also want to align your intent with what I just mentioned, your purpose. Again, for me, it's all about empowerment of people, but what is your purpose? And what are your intent? What is your intent with your purpose? How does that relate? All right. My suggestion is to align your intent with a higher purpose. So ultimately, when we're talking about, if you're looking at priorities, and I mentioned this on last week's episode, Pastor Landrum taught me something that's very powerful. He's a pastor of Changing Faces Ministry, has an incredible podcast out as well. He talked about in one of his revival services, priorities, right? Priorities. And that stuck with me in a big way because a lot of times I think my priorities may be kind of jumbled up. They're not clear and concise. What would be your priorities? Keeping God first, and then is it family or business or finance? What are your priorities? So when you're looking at your intent and you're looking at aligning your intent with your purpose, what is the highest purpose? So we talked about your intent as it relates to business, but business is not the highest intent. It is not the highest purpose. What's next after business? To empower people so that you're blessing other people. You're now becoming blessed to be a blessing to others. And it continues all the way to your top priority, which in a lot of people's cases is salvation. So it is a higher purpose. Your higher purpose invariably involves how you can best serve other people, but also do that while you're still being true to yourself. I have developed a mantra in 2022, and I'm going to carry that over to 2023, where I don't want to just be giving all the time. Now, I don't mean that the way it sounds because I'm always a giver, but here's what I mean. I want to be able to share in that giving. In other words, I'm doing something for you and you're doing something for me. Now, I don't mean like, you know, you having to pay for services or something like that. That's not what I mean. Here's what I mean. If I'm going to help you, at least you can be on time. If I'm going to help you, at least you can be coachable. If I'm going to help you, at least you can be engaged. At least you can be committed. That's what I mean by if I'm doing something for you, then you do something for me. If I'm going to put all of this work and effort and blood, sweat, and tears in terms of empowering you and coaching and doing certain things that can change your lives, then I need you to do something for me in terms of being on time and attentive and committed and have that level of desire and be coachable. That's sharing. What I noticed that I have done in the past, and a lot of people are still doing this, they're giving, they're giving, they're giving, they're giving, and people are not respecting the things that they need in terms of you continuing to give. And it's just simple things, but it's very important. Like I said, being on time, showing up on time, being coachable, being committed. Those things are important, but now you're sharing. You're not just always trying to, drag people to success, beg them to go to church. beg them to change their lives, beg them to eat right, beg them to work out, beg them to do this. See, that's just giving. You need that reciprocated where they're sharing with you and they're, at least doing the things that they absolutely can do and they absolutely can control. You'll be surprised at how much, support you'll get. As a matter of fact, universal support that you'll garner when you bring your greater spiritual meaning to your physical intent. You'll be amazed because people are attracted to that level of energy. People are attracted to that level of commitment from your standpoint in terms of what your intent is and at the highest level. What does that mean? So that's very, very powerful. Also, with your intent, you want to be able to connect emotionally. You want to be able to connect emotionally. A lot of times, intent as it pertains to relationships, there's a disconnect a lot of times in relationships, and that's because there's no emotional connection with your intent. What is it that you intend out of this marriage? What is it that you intend out of this relationship? What is it that you intend out of this friendship? What are your intentions? Right? You're in a marriage and there's conflict in a marriage or conflict in a relationship. A lot of times that conflict is because your intentions aren't clear. Look, husband, look, wife, this is what we will be doing with our family, with our future, whatever the case may be. You don't leave it to chance. You don't leave it to someone's imagination, especially if you're in a relationship. You want to have that emotional connection through your intent. So you make it clear to your spouse, to your significant other, to your partner, whatever it may be. You make it very clear. Look, I intend to put a ring on it. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about you. I intend to put a ring on it, right? I intend to buy this beautiful home for you and do these things for you. This is what I'm intending to do. And in fact, my purpose perfectly aligns with this because this is why I'm working. This is why I'm praying. This is why I'm fellowshipping. This is why I'm keeping God first. Whatever those priorities are, it all aligns with that purpose and your intent. When you make that clear to your significant other, I guarantee you it lessens the burden of what a relationship already is. You don't go through a lot of challenges because it's so very clear. I hope that makes sense. Also, you want to have gratitude and you want to have gratitude now. I mentioned to the book club as well. One of the things, one of the people that I wrote about in the book is Oprah Winfrey, and some of the things that she talked about and she articulated as it relates to being a champion. What does it mean to be successful? And the one thing that she says every single day, she shows gratitude for whatever it is or wherever she is in her life. Now, I know a lot of people may say, well, it's easy to show gratitude when you're a billionaire and you got all of these things going on, but you have to understand Oprah and a lot of the champions that are in the book, they showed gratitude before they became who they are. They showed gratitude when things weren't going well. They showed gratitude to their creator, even in the midst of all kinds of challenges and adversity. So we want to have gratitude and we want to have gratitude right now. Be in a state of gratitude when you're making and talking about your intent. Whatever it is, look, I'm grateful for what I have. Acknowledge your current blessings. I'm grateful for what I have. Am I where I want to be? No, I'm not. I'm striving to do better. I'm striving to have more. But acknowledge your current blessings through immediate gratification. Then acknowledge with a thank you for in advance for what's to come. You know, if you pray, when you pray, and how you pray, acknowledge and be thankful for what's to come. That's that gratitude now. Your intentions are pure. You want to give that acknowledgement as if you already have it, as if you've already received it, as if you've already made it. I call it the name it and claim it game. You name what you want, you claim it. And then you manifest that within your body, within your spirit, within your mind. you become what you seek. And that thing that you seek will come to you. You become great, greatness will come to you. That's what you want, but it all stems from gratitude, being grateful, understanding your purpose and how your intentions can really make your purpose clear to the end listener, whoever that may be, right? Then you also kind of want to work through the challenges. We call them resistance. You want to work through the resistance, even with your intent. You want to work through the challenge. You want to work through updating your life. All of the challenges, I say the word challenge because I don't call things problems. I don't believe in problems because I feel that I can resolve anything. It's just a challenge, right? So you want to work through those things just by creating a bigger picture of what your intent is and what your future holds. You're going to run into obstacles, you're going to run into opposition, but then you want to be able to create things and manifest things from a standpoint of power. Let me give you an example. On this book report, I'm sorry, not book report, book club, I talked about creating a vision board. For those of you who don't know, a vision board is just basically, for me, I had a white poster board in my bedroom, and I cut out for magazines just clips of everything that I wanted, whether it was, all these are things goals, a house, a car, a boat, a chalet. I would write on there in terms of money goals, just everything. It is the vision. What tends to happen though, for a lot of people, when they look at that vision board, if you don't have the right mindset, if you don't have the right intent, if you don't have the right education, all the things that I talked about in terms of being coachable and committed, then for some people, you'll develop a fear for living up to that potential, which are the things that are on your vision board. You'll develop a fear of your own vision board. Think about that. Because you know why? Not only is a vision board designed to mentally stimulate the things that you will acquire in the future, but it's also a mental reminder of the work that you have to do in order to accomplish said thing. So you're looking every single day, yeah, I want to buy this house. It is on my vision board and I'm excited about it. And then the question becomes to you subconsciously and for me consciously, well, what are you doing to make that a reality? You can't have all of these things on your vision board. And when it's time to, for the rubber to meet the road, it's time for you to do meetings. It's time for you to study. It's time for you in your real estate class to, go through that. It's time for you in your insurance industry to get licensed. And it's time for you to do these things. And you decide to sit home and, watch Chicago Fire or play video games or something like that, right? Because you're fearful of what's on that vision board. Champions, leaders, people who have serious and pure intent, they attack that vision board with vigor because they like, look, I got to get it. In order for me to get this, I got to do this. In order for me to have this, I have to do this. So they attack that and they look at it from a positive perspective. So when I'm talking about working through your resistance, working through the challenges of, your intent, that's what I mean. You're going to run into those things, mental challenges, resource challenges, physical challenges, whatever it may be, but you got to stay steadfast on your intent. What is it that you're looking to do? Then, as we start to wrap up, I sound like an old Baptist preacher. As we start to wrap up, and then they take another 45 minutes. But anyway, need I digress. You want to practice the art of surrender. Sometimes you have to practice the art of surrender. Now, this is very important because some people, and I'm guilty of this, I'm as guilty of this as anybody. Sometimes you have to surrender the how. How am I going to get this done? Sometimes you have to surrender the how. You want to avoid getting into, mindless or just frivolous activity of just wondering how the universe is going to bring your intent into a reality or bring your intent into manifestation. Sometimes it's not for us to understand the how. It's for us to do the do. and allow the how to do what it's supposed to do. So sometimes you have to surrender the how, have every trust and belief that what you're working on is going to work out. The hows will work out. In fact, sometimes the how has to come from God. You don't even have the ability or the capacity to do some of the things that you intend to do. But what your responsibility is to be obedient. Again, that's where coachable, prayerful. All of these things are the things that you can do. And then sometimes you just have to leave the how up to God, especially if the challenge is so big that you don't even have the capacity to do it. You know, the art of surrender requires you to be not so much attached to the outcome of the intent, but just do the work. Do the work. You don't have to be attached to the outcome. Just do the work. What is it that you have to do in order to, have this level of success based on your intent? And even if those things don't seem to pan out the way you think they should sometime, no worries. Then just shift your expectations. That's all. I don't notice I didn't say lower your expectations. I don't believe in lowering your expectations. In fact, I believe in raising them. But sometimes you may shift your expectations. Have an awareness that there may be a gap between what you're asking for, right? And what you already have or what you can do, your capacity. So you may need to shift those expectations laterally, not down. I can't stress that enough. I never go back, never retrogress. You always want to be improving, or in particular case, if things aren't working out with your intent or your expectations, then shift those expectations laterally until you can build either capacity, resources, or whatever it may be, so that you can now perform from the asking standpoint to the having or the how standpoint. Um, Sometimes that's a big leap for a lot of people. No worries. We just have to grow into that particular position. That's no big deal. Just shift those expectations. Um, Part of shifting the expectation is for you to maybe take a step back and get into a little bit of growth. For me, when I'm working on something and pondering and I can't really figure it out, I kind of take a step back and get into classroom mode. Let me just study this for a second so I can really understand what it's about. And then once I've done that study, studying gives you growth. Once you have that level of growth, then you're able to move on to that next thing. But as far as this is concerned, we're talking about shifting those expectations laterally. And then the last thing as we close out is to follow up and follow through, guys. Look, it doesn't matter what your intentions are in your relationships. It doesn't matter what your intentions are in your business. It doesn't matter what your intentions are in any capacity in life if you don't follow up and follow through. So many people get fired up for 24 to 48 hours about something. And then all of a sudden, they allow that passion, that motivation to dwindle or decline over a period of time. Sometimes it's a short period of time. Sometimes it's a long period of time. Think about relationships. Think about marriages. I heard a statistic a couple of days ago where 50% of marriages end in divorce. That is amazing to me in a negative way. It's not a good thing. 50% of marriages end in divorce. A lot of times that's because you don't follow up and follow through with things that were your intent when you got married. For example, there should be 3 strands to a marriage. That's the husband and wife, and then there's God. There's your creator. That's that third strand, right? When you get married, you make commitments to each other before God. You make commitments to each other before God. And your intent is to, for better or worse, for richer or poor, till death do us part. That's your intention between you, your spouse or soon to be spouse, and God. The problem is the reason there's 50% divorce rate, there is no follow through. Year one, okay, it's okay. And then year two, it started to get here. And then year three, you're not following through with those things that you promised or committed in your vows of marriage or relationship or friendship or business. We see people all the time in business, and they come and they take a look at our business opportunity and they get fired up. 24 to 48 hours later, you're trying to call them and get them going and doing certain things. They won't answer the phone. They won't return text. They just do a whole 180 in terms of their excitement and enthusiasm. Why? Because there's no commitment from individuals to follow up and follow through. So what I've used as a resolution to this, how do I resolve this whole follow up and follow through things? I try to teach people to a point where they can see what I see. They can understand what I understand. Not that I have all the answers, not that I know it all. That's not what I'm saying. But if you can see certain things and you're educated on those said things that you see, then you don't have to be motivated anymore. You know that you better do something or else. You don't have to be motivated to follow through. You know that if you don't, there is a what, or else type scenario. In a relationship, if you don't do the things that you need to do to keep your wife happy, she's going to leave you behind. So that's that or else, right? So your intent is very important. Your follow-up is important, and your follow-through is important. So I hope this episode kind of gives you just a little bit of insight and information in terms on what intentions are. What is the power of intentions? How do you exploit intent in a good way? How do you make that very clear and very specific? Those things are important in the bigger picture of life, success, relationships, marriages, whatever it may be. So take notes, go back and listen to this episode again. Do your own due diligence and studies. As I tell you all the time, my podcast is more my opinion or some things that I have learned through education or studying. But do your own research, do your own due diligence, and apply that to your life. Okay. So with that, guys, we're going to end this particular podcast. But what I want to do again is invite all of you to like, subscribe, download, and share. This podcast is expanding everywhere. Season 3 has been a blast already. We're live on Facebook, live on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google, iTunes, just all kinds of platforms, all podcast platforms, all social media platforms. Go listen to previous episodes. All of them are on the website at the deepdivepodcast.live, Live. Go take a listen to some of the previous episodes and continue to support, man. This is not about me. This is about all of us, all over the world. This is about all of us. So continue to support. I want to thank Tristan Hampton again for this particular topic. I want to thank the book club for what you're doing with the mindset of a champion. And I just want to thank all of you for the love and support. We're continuing to grow the podcast. We're growing our audience, and we're growing our message of empowerment. So with that, I'm going to conclude this episode. I'm excited to get a chance to continue to see you guys, and we're going to continue to have success. And I'll see you all on the beaches of the world. God bless.